Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's been again a week or two since I've made like a proper video, so I thought I'd try and address that today. For those of you who live in the UK, we've been having some pretty amazing weather recently, haven't we? It's been like pretty hot all of last week. Today's not bad. The temperature's dropped a little bit, but it's still 17, 18, and yesterday many parts of the UK were hitting 32, 30, 34 I think in some parts. So it's been quite a scorcher of a week, and that makes it a bit difficult to focus on anything work related, unfortunately, but hey, it's the way it goes. Take the good with the bad, hey. So okay, chit chat over. What I want to talk about on this week's video is how Google search is being disrupted through this new AI search feature, which is being gradually rolled out, specifically in the US, but some of it's live in places like the UK, India, large population there. So basically how this works, I'm going to be talking about it quite a bit more, but in a nutshell, how it works is it reduces click-through rate, and it generates it pulls the whatever you type into Google, it will look at different things like Google Shopping and Maps and Discovery and video and all the rest of it, and it will use the AI to pull the most authentic result, if that makes sense. And most users don't kind of click past or scroll past the AI answer which is kind of generated, which means that they're not clicking through to specific websites. And if you're spending a lot of money on SEO, obviously that's been very valid in the past, but all of these things are changing. I'm always saying in my videos that everything's constantly changing, and it's never been truer. Just keeping up with it, and I suppose it's all about if you think of another product or something, like a phone, maybe it's outdated and you need to upgrade it and that type of thing. It's a little bit different, but there's some similarities here, so technology's advanced, times are changing. With AI, things are a lot more accurate, as I've talked about AI in a lot of my videos, with the different SaaS vlogs and stuff. And now it's coming to Google search, so we're going to get into that a bit more. But, ultimately, a lot of brands have reported like a 40% drop in click-through rate on specific key terms. And, it is going to have an impact. Some of it's live already, some of it's going to be rolled out in the future on a more wider, grander scale. It's definitely going to have an impact on the way SEO is approached. I mean, just 2 or 3 years ago, it was all about optimizing your landing pages with long tail keywords and stuff like that. And I guess that's going to kind of stay, but to some degree. But the point I'm making is that the actual click-through element of it, where people, go to Google, type in what they're looking for, and then they maybe click through to your website and click on different pages. That's going to have a massive impact because, with AI-generated results, generated search results, this is, it pulls it from different sources, obviously, mainly Google, ChatGPT-4, other sources. It's going to have a massive, massive impact on, the way marketers and businesses alike, even solo freelancers and stuff, think about SEO and how they optimize sites for traffic and stuff. So let's get into it a bit more, and we'll get into it. Okay, so kind of what's kind of taking place is like zero click, it's said, is like the new norm, because with these AI generated summaries, it's resulting in, as I just mentioned, it's resulting in less people clicking through to the ads. So by late 2024, 65% of mobile users in categories like health, finance and travel, etc., it's probably a few more, reported that the searches that people conducted based on those sectors ended without any external clicks. So what I'm saying, they didn't click through to like a website, so it's a game changer, and I'm sure you can see how it's going to play out. I mean, if you just take like a cost per click model, this is like how like PPC works, so people bid on certain keywords or certain long tail keywords or whatever, and depending on whether it's a high competition or a low competition keyword, people can be bidding sort of $3 to $30 per phrase, keyword they're bidding on, or whatever. So it can get quite expensive. Now, unless you're like a really big spender, like Amazon, Apple, or Meta, or something in that category, and you got a massive budget of X million a year, and certainly well over 250k a year, you're probably not going to see the results, because what's happening is these AI generated summaries are starting to appear. It's the systems up, I believe, from what I've seen, in the US definitely. It's been rolled out to Australia. So billions of results in the UK and India and Australia and the US are producing these AI summaries, and because it pulls the stuff from different sources, we're going to get into this in a bit, because it pulls the stuff from different sources. So by that I mean maps, shopping, discovery, etc., Google Discovery, that is. It kind of aggregates everything, and it creates like subsections of the actual main answer that it's pulled up, and it's able to kind of do a lot more searching, find the information people are looking for a lot more quickly without having to click through 3 or 4 times externally to find what they're looking for. And that's why people aren't doing these external clicks. Certainly in certain sectors that's true. I'm not saying Google search is totally dead in the water yet, but you can see how the change is coming, and how it's going to, as it gets bigger and bigger, how it's going to impact other sectors, and why businesses need to think differently about how if they do Google search, why they need to adapt, like let's say another strategy. Now we'll get into that in another video, not this one today. Today I just want to talk about the actual change and how Google search is being impacted. I've used Google AdWords for numerous things. It's not rocket science. There's some things you need to learn, but you can get your head around it with a little bit of study and some practical experience. But the theme of this video is that that's all going to change. Certainly it's not going to change overnight, but it's starting to change already. And a lot of the small businesses and the small medium businesses and small SMEs, if they're tipping money into Google search, they're probably, depending on the sector and their region, they're probably not seeing the results. And maybe it's not just look at other types of Google ad campaigns. Like you can do Google ad campaigns for YouTube, and depending on the regions you select, and the target audience, that could be quite cost effective. The CPM, which is like per 1,000 impressions, it can be quite cost effective depending on which countries you target and how you set the campaign up. But cost per click, PPC, especially if you're doing like text only, or performance max or something like that, it can be quite expensive, and yes, you may get the results, although that's starting to change, and that's what I'm talking about. These AI generated summaries, it's giving people the information they're looking for much quicker, much faster, much more accurately, and there's less need for the people searching to click externally elsewhere, and that impacts website traffic and stuff. So it's all very interesting how it's all starting to change, and we're going to be seeing more of this over the coming months and years. It's going to be a massive change. There's always something new on the horizon in marketing, and but it's just as you learn one thing, something else comes along, or and that makes X, Y, Z obsolete and stuff. So I'm not saying Google search is obsolete, but it's changing. So okay, so let's move on. Okay, so just picking up from what I was saying a second ago, all this kind of generative AI summary results in search, is completely changing the behavior of how businesses and marketers go about their campaigns. So it's basically resulting in less control and more of a kind of automation bias for businesses, companies, organizations, even charities. So, these kind of, if I can phrase it like these recent updates, it basically results in a number of things. I've got them written down here in front of me. So I'll just read out what it says here. So ads are increasingly run through Performance Max and AI-driven campaigns. So for those of you who don't know, Google Performance Max, I'll tell you what it is. It basically, compared to doing like an ad campaign which just goes, shows in Google search results as like a text-based ad, if you run the campaign through Performance Max, which is what's going to increasingly happen in the future, it basically runs it across all of the Google platforms. So Google Shopping, Google Discovery, Google Maps, Google Search, Google Video. Do you get the idea? So it covers like a multitude of Google products, and that's what's called Performance Max. So that's kind of one of the things that's happening. Google with this new AI search model that Google's, some of it is live, especially in the US and places like the UK, India, and Australia. But we're going to see more of it, as it gets rolled out more and more. So basically, this is what it says. Google chooses keywords, placements, creatives, reducing advertiser control. So, I've recently witnessed over, the last couple of years how, with these SaaS platforms, a lot of people can now do Google Ads, even if they haven't kind of particularly studied it. It's quite easy to set one up. I could reel off, and some of the other videos I've put in the links, some of these platforms which can actually run Google Ads. You just type in your budget, your rough approximate target market, and it'll actually run the campaign for you. Now, what's happening here with this AI search is not too different, to be honest, but you'll see where I'm coming from in a sec. Because if Google's going to be having more control over the keywords, the placements, the creatives, and which results in the advertiser having less control, can you see the similarities? So, I think the days are changing where, I still see companies advertising, they're putting up ads saying PPC specialist, 40 grand, 45 grand, must have experience, must have 3 years experience. But so all this is going to throw like a spanner in the works, because the whole system is changing. It's definitely true. It's here to stay. It's not something they're trialing out for a couple of months and they're going to, call time on it next year. It's here to stay. It's going to kind of revolutionise the way Google search is carried out, and it's increasingly going to be done through Performance Max, which is through AI summaries and stuff. So I think advertisers are going to have less control for sure. Okay, so let's just carry on from what I've got on my little sheet here. So the system may prioritise what's easiest to scale, I can relate to that, not what's most profitable for you as a business. So again, if you spent hours and hours, trying to pick out the best keywords, either yourself through various systems or via a digital marketing agency, that might be a bit of a white elephant or a red herring, because if Google's going to be prioritising what's easiest to scale and not what's best for your profitability or for you personally as a business, then that might cease to make sense to some degree. Of course, you'll still need to do some keyword research, to give Google an idea. But if Google's having the final say over, what's the easiest way to scale a campaign, then it might not work in your absolute interest, if that makes sense. So final comment here, it's got, you're no longer buying visibility, you're renting an automated slot in Google's AI strategy. Now that's interesting, isn't it? So I'll just read out what it says here. It says, you're no longer buying search visibility, you're renting an automated slot in Google's AI search strategy. So you are with these AI summaries, it's going to be rolled out more. There's no doubt about that. Can you see how it's going to change? The advertiser's going to lose control. I've run ads before, especially for YouTube, and basically what I've found is that depending on the countries that you target, I've got subscribers in India. In fact, I've got more subscribers in India than I have in the UK, but following India, I've got most of the rest of the subscribers are in the UK. I've got subscribers in Indonesia, Vietnam, Middle East, USA, a whole host of different countries. I'm not saying my YouTube channel's the biggest, but that's not the aim. So I don't do YouTube to try and get to 750,000 subscribers, because basically this is my line of work, and I wouldn't say it's exactly a hobby, but I do enjoy it, and it helps to kind of educate some of the small businesses about what's coming up with regard to different digital marketing hacks, growth tricks, and all the rest of it. I don't just talk about SEO or Google search, talk about the whole 360 digital marketing mix. So that's why I'm on it. It will grow. I'm not under any pressure to grow it. It's not like I have to make a video every single week. But just getting back to my point, if you select some different countries for YouTube paid ads, and you'll find that Google will select the it will say when you run that ad, if you're selecting more than one country, we, as in Google, may prioritise where to serve the ads. So they have the say in how to scale it. So if you select UK, India, Australia, Egypt, Brazil, Spain, it will most likely serve most of the ads in places like Brazil, India, Spain, Egypt, because they're a bit cheaper to run than they are to like places like the UK, UK, Australia, Canada, etc., where you can be paying sort of 5p a click or 5p an impression or whatever. If you target India, it's quite a lot cheaper. But I mean, I've got a lot of followers in India, and there's a reason for that. Is because it's an emerging digital economy, and this channel is about digital marketing. A lot of the professionals are quite sort of young, aspiring people. I think 70% of my followers are between the ages, when I looked in the analytics, between the ages of 25 to 40, something like that. So you can see why it's a growing economy, over 1 billion people, an emerging digital economy. A lot of digital businesses based there, SaaS platforms, freelancers, SEO companies and stuff. So I can see why that is the case, as opposed to, let's say, somewhere like Spain, where the demographic is completely different. So you get that. Okay, so let's move on to what the final bit of this thing. I've got like a bit of a case study to share with you, and then we'll kind of wrap up the video from there. Okay, so I just want to tell you about DTC Skincare. Basically what they did is in late 2024, they scaled back their Google search ad spend by 70%. Okay, and instead what they did is they focused on SEO for AI overviews. That's what this new system is called, that Google's rolling out. Some of it's live already. They focused on YouTube Shorts, which you got an incredible engagement rate. I used to do YouTube Shorts, and I used to dabble with TikTok, and I found the engagement rate is really, really good, especially for organic. Sometimes there's no need to even put ad spend to it. Depending on how much you want to scale and what kind of business you are. And the reason behind that is because everyone's using mobile. Even in my analytics on my YouTube, I can see that 55-60% of people are viewing my channel on mobile. If you look at the mobile statistics on I think it's Statista, or something like that, you'll find it. It'll come up in Google straight away. The actual mobile, not just mobile ownership, but the number of searches that people do on mobiles and the way they access the internet is absolutely phenomenal. In a lot of countries it's 70, 80, 90%, and you can see how that's driving like YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and TikTok Reels and stuff like that. So if you can focus on that as opposed to traditional Google paid search, which is changing, by the way, it's going to be called AI overviews from not from today, but that's what it's called. You'll have a much better results, I believe. So it just gets back to DTC Skincare. The net result of the changes they made, so it was scaling back the ad spend by 70% in late 2024, focusing on SEO built for AI overviews, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels, all that kind of stuff. And they basically had a 20% reduction in the ad spend. They had a higher organic exposure in AI overviews. So basically through the AI overviews, they had like higher organic exposure. 45% increase in net sales, in addition to the 20% reduction in ad spend that I mentioned. So just by kind of modifying these strategies, I think you can get results. I do think a lot of companies are still, maybe because they haven't heard about AI overviews and the way things are changing or set to change even further, and they're still tipping money into traditional PPC and spending a lot of money getting keyword research done and stuff. But marketing's changed a lot. It's changed a lot in the last 5 years, and it is hard work keeping up with it, to be honest. I've always said that. As soon as you have built a team and recruited specialist people and learned all about these things, something else comes along and it's time to change. It's constantly changing, and it's you certainly have to be on the ball with it. So hopefully I've given you some insight today into AI overviews and what's kind of partially here already and what's going to be coming in greater waves a bit later on, different countries and stuff. But hopefully you've picked up some stuff from that, and if you are spending a lot of money on Google ad spend for traditional PPC, visibility and you're not seeing the results, maybe take stock of what I said and do your own research into it. I will put some stuff in the description just to kind of recap on what I've discussed today. But if you can pivot your strategy towards doing AI built for AI overviews, try and focus on short form content like YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels, TikTok videos, that kind of stuff, and just kind of focus a bit more on storytelling and all the rest of it, and maybe Pinterest, stuff like that. Pinterest video, pins and stuff. You might see some better results. You almost certainly will. So thank you very much for watching. Pleasure to talk to you again, and I'll see you on the next video.